Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, welcome to the Spearhead Sundays podcast. I'm your host, Lewis Spears. We've got a big episode today. I went for my driver's license test. We're going to break it down. I also want to talk about Gen Z getting poisoned by lead. Lead is back, baby, and you can tell. There's a new mayor in New York. Women are being drafted in Denmark. Liver King, Joe Rogan, plus a bunch of other stuff as well. But first, episode 400 of the Spearhead Sundays podcast is on sale right now, losespears.com. I also have shows in Frankston and then another one somewhere else. Where the fuck else am I doing a show? I'm doing I don't know, man. I'm going all over. But then I'm going to the UK and yeah, look, what I need to talk about today is I, Lewis Spears, at 31 years of age, finally got enough driving experience to do the driver's test. Many people, hundreds of people, have been messaging me, commenting on everything that I'm posting, even videos that are completely irrelevant to the subject, demanding to know if I passed or failed the test. Look, I'll say this, okay? Because I will be revealing my license status, whether it is still a learner's or if it is a probationary license. I will be revealing that live on stage at episode 400 of the podcast, which will be recorded in Sydney. I think the tickets are half sold out already. I haven't even posted about it. That's awesome. losespears.com. So I will not be revealing whether or not I passed. I will say this. I will give you this one nugget of information. The test could not have gone worse. The circumstances of the test could not have been less in my favor. Not only was the test my very first rain drive, and I'm not talking about a drizzle, I'm talking it was fucking pouring for the whole test. Not before the test. When I left the house to go and do the test, wasn't raining. As soon as I pulled into the Vic Roads car park, cocoon, God open up the fucking heavens. And you'd think that that would be bad enough because I had not done even a single rain drive. So that was my first ever rain drive was the test. But that's fine. You might think, oh, that's fine, whatever. You go, oh, you're just worried about, just wipe off 5, go a bit slower. You'll be all right. And that's what I was thinking. But then, and I'm not revealing the results because I'm trying to build a lot of suspense, and we're gonna either celebrate or mourn at this live podcast when I reveal whether or not I passed or failed or whether or not I have my license. Because here's the thing, if I failed, I'm not saying I did, but if I did, theoretically there would be enough time for me to book another test and then do that test and then pass. But that's only in the hypothetical world where maybe I failed, which I'm not revealing but I will tell you this, not only was it raining, pouring, torrential rains. But there was so much road work that wasn't there every other time I was with my instructor. Because every lesson I've been doing with my instructor for the last 3 months, we've just been doing the test. We're doing the test route, right? So there's 2 test routes, and every single one, we just do both routes twice, and we practice the reverse parallel and a 3-point turn, right? So I'm going to be real here. I don't really know how to drive. I know how to pass the test. That's what I'm training for. I'm not training to keep myself and you safe on the roads. I'm just training to get my license, and then it's everybody else's problem. So for the last 3 months, me and the instructor have been doing drills to pass the test, just doing exactly the same route, in the same order, and he pretends to be the tester, right? So at this point, I'm confident. I could do the route in my sleep, right? Not only was it the first rain drive I've ever had in my life, which was freaking me out, there was also roadworks fucking everywhere. All over the place. And not just like, oh, slow down, there's roadworks here. I'm talking about guys with signs standing in the middle of the road saying, oh, you can't go down here because there's a giant cement truck. You're going to have to drive on the right-hand side of the road and mount the roundabout to get through here. That type of fucking, like, off-road works. Now you're probably thinking, oh, well, whatever, Lewis. Just, you know, it's torrential rain. It's the apocalypse. There's roadworks everywhere. You're being told to drive on the wrong side of the road for the first time ever. Just don't crash into the cones that are really, really fucking narrow. Oh, you have to do a U-turn into the left lane by driving on the right-hand side of the road via a roundabout that you have to mount without hitting a single cone? And you don't even know how to drive. You just kind of know how to pass the test that you're not doing because it's raining and there's roadworks everywhere. So not only that, right? Okay, now that would be bad enough. Okay, for your first test. Or potentially only test if I passed. Because again, the results will be revealed later, right? So that would be bad enough. However, like I said, for the last 3 months, we've been doing drills, doing Route A and Route B. Route A and Route B. Route A, Route B. So I know these off by heart. I could do them without the instructor. As long as I had a licensed driver next to me and my L plates on. Right? So, not only were there rain, roadworks fucking everywhere, but the day before the test, my instructor texts me and goes, hey man, just found out that they've introduced a brand new route that we've never driven before. Heard that it's really hard. We should probably get a practice run in if you have time. And I missed that text. But that's okay. I thought, oh, well, A, B, and now a new C route. I know A, B. We've got a 2 in 3 chance of going on the route that I know, right? So I like those odds. That's easy. Let's roll the dice. I go, sorry, missed your message. We won't have time, but we'll probably get, the standard route. He goes, yeah. Nah. Brand new route I'd never driven before. Very difficult route. Rain, roadworks everywhere. After the test, the instructor said to me and the person, I am not doing that route again. That was the first time I did that route today, but that was way too difficult. I'm not doing that with anyone else I test. Oh, great. Well, why the fuck was I the first one to go in to the slaughterhouse? To find out if it was something that beginners should even attempt. But again, all of this said, my results will remain a mystery. and you and you can guess what happened, but and another thing happened, but I'm not going to talk about that because we're going to save that one for the show. For episode 400. So, look, the point is, guys, I'm not revealing whether or not I passed, but you can leave your guesses below based on the information I've given you. And theoretically, if I did fail, which I won't reveal, there is enough time for me to have a second, third, fourth, and fifth attempt. Actually, is there? I mean, would there be? When is the show? Because what is it, July 4th? Shout out America. My favorite declining country. July 19. Ooh, that's like in 2 weeks. All right. Canberra and Frankston, though, that's coming up. Well, look, I'll let you guess, but it's not about whether you win or lose. It's It's about having fun. Unfortunately, I didn't have any fun at all. And in fact, after the test, I had to take 3 days off because I was so highly strung that I couldn't fucking think of anything funny. I couldn't do the podcast. I tried to do this yesterday. I was just so stressed and highly strung from that awful experience that I couldn't do my job for the next 3 days. So I'll let you decide whether you think I passed or failed, but that's the small kernel, the little nugget, a couple of clues that I'm giving to you before before the truth is revealed at episode 400 live on stage in Sydney. Get your tickets now. And there will be a live on stage license reveal. I will be revealing either that I am still on my learners or that I have moved on to my probationary license. I would go to my green peas, or maybe I have gone to my green peas, I should say. I've potentially gone on to my green peas, which does that mean that there's no restrictions on what I can drive? Because that'd be cool, because as you all know, I have enough money to buy a Lamborghini. Why the fuck do I care if I'm on my fucking green or red peas? I can't afford to buy a car. I can't afford to buy a $3,000 death trap that'll kill me. So look, anyway. I have to do this podcast now because I need to get the train to my parents' house. After this. So Gen Z has got lead poisoning. All right, Gen Z, they're obsessed with their vapes. Their disposable vapes. You know, every time I walk around in a park in Frankston, I put 3 vapes in the bin and none of them are mine. These fucking Gen Z freaks are just sucking on and dumping batteries in the park. It's actually foul. There's bins. I used to think it was gross when I would find cigarette butts places. Now I'm finding like full fucking lit up LED batteries leaking lithium into the soil left by degenerate fucking Gen Z idiots. And I used to think poorly of these people, but now I understand that they all have fucking lead poisoning, literally. A new study has revealed a deeply troubling health risk hidden inside some of the most popular disposable vapes on the market, one that researchers say could be even more dangerous than traditional cigarettes. According to the research from the University of California, Davis, several disposable vape brands emit lead, nickel, and antimony at levels far above safety limits, with one device releasing more lead in a single day than nearly 20 packs of cigarettes. That makes me think about that video that I saw of a guy in China who's like the quality control in the vape factory, and while everyone else is packing vapes into their boxes and putting the lids on them, his job is to grab like a pallet of 30 of them, suck on every single one of them to make sure they work, and then send them off to you. So every single vape you're getting has been pre-sucked by some guy whose lungs must be made of lead by now. You're getting pre-sucked vapes, dude. Disgusting. Honestly, smoke cigarettes. We need to start running cigarette ads for the youth. Vaping I am so fucking sick of walking in public and all of a sudden I'm enveloped in some vanilla scented cloud. Disgusting. The smell of cookies used to remind me of my grandmother's house. Now it reminds me of some Discord mod in a fucking trench coat and a fedora. Get rid of these fucking vapes, man. They're poison. I remember I don't know why the fuck I was having a crisis. That's why I was having a fucking crisis when I was like 19, 20. I wasn't making any money with comedy. I hadn't taken off at all. I had some good Facebook posts and like 2 YouTube videos with views. I was working in call centers and I got so fucking sad and depressed. I thought anything would be better than this. So instead of killing myself, I signed myself up for a music production course. And the jury's still out on whether or not that was a good decision. But I signed up for a music production course because I liked making music and beats for rap. And thank God I never pursued that. Seriously, I do like a little bit of rap, but could me being a rapper? No, I like making funny music and expressing my feelings rhythmically, but I don't know about releasing an album. Sorry to all those Christopher Ruse fans. I had to pick my lane, and I'm happy with the lane that I chose. But who knows? Maybe I'll put out music when I'm even more grey and get ridiculed for it. Anyway, I'm in this music production course, and there was this guy that was my age now. So that's how you know he was an even bigger loser, and he was going bald, and he had very pallid skin. He looked very unhealthy, and it was just when vapes were like, they weren't even legal. They just weren't. They were a new thing. This was like, it must have been, if I'm 19, this is like 2013 or 14, I think, right? So vapes just started to appear, but it's back when vapes looked like fucking wizard wands. Do you remember that? And I remember after one of our first classes, we all took the tram back and everyone was buzzing about what they were going to learn and this and that. And he pulled out this fucking wizard wand, this giant fucking, it looked like a recorder with an LED in it. And he just started puffing it on the fucking tram, pissing off every other person that was on the tram. And he was like, they're technically legal and they're not bad for you. They're better than cigarettes. And I wanted to hit him so hard that the front end of that fucking vape would stick out through the back of his skull. I wanted to punch the vape while it was in his mouth so that it would shoot through his skull and go through the window like I had just cracked open the window with the emergency hammer. That's how much it pissed me off, and it smelled like this sickly sweet vanilla cookie chemical lead mixture. And at that moment, I understood the terrible mistake I made by signing up to that music production course. I was like, oh my God, I've surrounded myself with the absolute bottom scum of the planet Earth. I can't ever be like this. I have to leave. I think I mainly did it because I wanted to be on Centrelink as a student, but when I found out how difficult it was to do the forms to sign up to Centrelink, I just never did it. So I just stung myself with like 2 semesters of hex debt and never got on Centrelink, and I just stopped going to classes and started posting. Like, what the fuck is wrong with me? How have I gotten here? You know what I mean? I don't think I've ever spoken about the 2 semesters of a music production course I did, and everyone there was trying to be a DJ. This is when like the nightclub scene in Melbourne CBD was fucking pumping. Like Ping a Pete Cloud 9 days were in full motion, and everyone just wanted to be a fucking DJ. And I wanted to actually make music, and it was just a scam. Also, like the instructors were no good. There were no real assignments. It was just like a scam to get money from the government. And then I got saddled with a bunch of hex debt that I think it took me years to pay that shit off. And I never got my degree. And even if I got my degree, it would be useless because it was in music production. Fucking, hi, I would like to pay $30,000 to do something that I could do at home by watching fucking YouTube videos. Anyway, what am I talking about? Oh yeah, vapes. When I first saw the lead concentrations, they were so high that I thought our instrument was broken. And lead author Mark Salazar said, lead author Mark Salazar, that discovery launched a deeper analysis, uncovering that metals were either present in the e-liquid itself or leaching from internal components like leaded bronze parts and degraded heating coils. 4 devices emitted nickel and lead at levels that surpassed thresholds for neurological and respiratory harm. 2 exceeded cancer risk limits due to high antimony levels, a known carcinogen. Dude, this, I know that like, oh, vaping's bad for you, but you ever read a comment so fucking stupid online, or you watch a TikTok by some like idiot that appears to have nothing going on behind their fucking eyes, and it's because they've been sucking on lead and nickel batteries since they were 14, you know? My generation, sure, there were a lot of kids in high school that were smoking cigarettes, but at least smoking cigarettes looks cool, you know? Smells like shit, it fucking kills you, it's really bad for you, and it makes your teeth yellow, but while you're doing it, fuck, it looks pretty cool, you know? It looks pretty fucking cool. That's a lie. It looks cool in cinema. It looks cool on TV and in cinema, and that's why everybody does it. But in real life, I don't know. I remember, like, I saw a girl, I thought she's gorgeous, and then she pulled out a ciggy, and my whole body went, yeah. No, she stinks. It's not good, man. And the vapes are even vapes are like the opposite. Oh, this person smells kind of nice, but I can't take anyone seriously sucking on electricity. You know, like you got a fucking hard drive in your pocket and you put it in your mouth. Gross. Grow up. Get a real addiction, huh? Why don't you heat up a spoon, you coward? There are people out there that are hanging for vapes. They get jittery if they don't have their fucking USB. That's pathetic. Yuck! You're a loser. If you vape, you are lame. One of the best things I ever did for my entire life. Any young kids listen to this. One of the best things I ever did for me and my future and my dreams and my mental health and every aspect of my life. I never touched alcohol, drugs, or cigs. Not once. Never have. And here's why it's the best thing I ever did for me. Because it's so fucking easy. Yeah? It's easy as. Right? Because everyone's always like, wow, that's amazing that you don't drink that. I don't know how you did that. It's so easy. You deal with a little bit of peer pressure from 16 to 18, and then everybody just knows that you don't drink. It's not a little bit. It's fucking heaps. There was so much peer pressure. There was so much, and I almost bent a couple times, but my iron will stood strong, and I never touched it. And now I never get off it. I haven't been off. I get offered like drinks by people I meet for the first time. Would you like something? I'm getting something, and that's like a polite thing. And I go, no, thank you. But every single person in my life, there's no peer pressure. Everybody just knows, right? It's so it's so easy because I don't know what it's like. I've never tried it. I never had to quit, right? I respect people so much more for quitting than me. I never started. I don't know how good it is, you know? That's easy. Right? I don't have to. Quitting's hard because you're like, fuck, that was awesome. Me, I'm just never going to start. It's one of the best things I ever did for myself. And in terms of investing, not drinking ever, that's like buying Bitcoin in fucking 2011. That's the best long-term investment you could possibly make. The amount of money I've saved myself, the amount of health I've accrued while others have damaged, the amount of just clearness of mind, and talk about fucking wasted days, man. Going out getting pissed and then paying for it the next day with a hangover. Not me, dude. I was reading a book and learning something, or working, or actually resting. Because that's another thing, right? I'm not saying that, while you were hungover, I was working. That's very true a lot of the time. But also a lot of the time, while you were hungover and recovering, I was resting. Right? Because recovering is not resting. it's recovering from the damage that it doesn't get you back to zero, right? If you spend a bunch of energy and then you overspend, now you got to recover. You're not at zero. Yeah, does that make sense? You're paying a debt back while I'm accruing, baby. Anyway, highly recommend never touching any of that stuff. I just don't think it's good. I don't think there are many people, or even weed, dude. This is a controversial take. I think weed makes you fucking stupid and lazy. And I think that there are, yes, a lot of very, very, very successful people that smoke weed, but those are outliers, and they're not, very likely not you. And those people, even more controversial, might be a fuckload more talented if they never touch the stuff. Hey, but that's just my opinion. You can suck in your lead with weed in it if you would like. Many of the disposable vapes are technically illegal in the US, but continue to flood the market through online sellers and unregulated distributors. The speed at which new products hit the shelves has far outpaced both regulation and scientific research. Yeah, that's so true, dude. There's vapes fucking everywhere. And every vape I pick up in the park when I walk the dog has a different logo and a different build and make. And it's like, I know you guys are buying these from like $2 op shops. This is like me when I was like 15, I was going to op shops and buying fake Yu-Gi-Oh cards. Or $2 shops and buying fake Yu-Gi-Oh cards. Right? Now you kids are buying vapes with lead and nickel in them and going, why can't I read? It must be the screens. Nah, it's the lead. The screens aren't helping either. What can be done about this? But what needs to be done about this is everyone needs to just bully people for vaping. Like, it's fucking lame. It's so unbelievably lame. Like, every time I see someone vaping, I laugh. Like, that's so funny. Because here's the thing. I think that vaping is way more laughable than smoking, right? Because here's the thing. The cigarette smoker, they have an addiction, sure, whatever. But the cigarette smoker, they have to think to themselves, I am going to have one cigarette. I am going to stop what I'm doing and have a cigarette. I'm going to stop. I'm going to pull out my packet of cigarettes. I'm going to light one and I'm going to smoke it, and I'm going to smoke it until it's gone, and then I'm going to move on. Or I'm going to smoke it while I do this thing, and then I'm going to move on, and then maybe later I'll have another cigarette. That I can respect. The vapor always has it in their fucking fist, like that, like a. You ever see like a 7-year-old boy who hasn't been told to stop holding onto his penis? You see some of these rappers, they were never told that because their parents weren't around. They do it in their film clips. But the vapor holds it in their fist at all times, like it's their fucking binky, and you can tell they're holding onto it in their fucking dirty pockets, and they pull it out and they're vaping it all the time. There's never a moment where they're not at one point thinking about having a drag of their battery lead. And that's why it's so much lamer than smoking. Because smoking, you stop, you light up, you have a ciggy, maybe you take a photo, maybe if there's a nice gloom and some glare, it looks really cool, and then you're done and you move on. The vapor is pathetically attached to this thing like there's some 300-pound obese American that just got COVID and they're attached to a fucking ventilator. It is lame. You look like you have no self-control because you don't. And I can already hear what you're saying. Yeah, well, at least I can drive. Yeah, well, maybe I passed. Maybe I can drive, and I'm keeping that a secret from you. Have you thought about that? That's what's so funny about the vapors is you see them, they come out of buildings, and before they take a breath of fresh air, they've sucked on the fucking vape. The first thing I do when I leave an oppressive corporate office building with LED lighting is I push open the door and I take a deep breath. The first thing that a vape-addicted idiot does is before they exit the building, they have a big inhale of the vape, and the first thing they do is they exhale battery acid into the environment. Breathe some air, you coward. I want my air to be flavored. You're like a fucking dork who can't drink water. You're like Asmongold, who can't drink water because it tastes yucky. I can't breathe air unless it's flavored. You are ruining your own brain. Anyway, I don't like vaping. I think, okay, look, I take it back. I don't like that guy that I did the course with. And I thought it was very rude that he vaped on the tram. And I've been carrying that since 2013. And it all just came out. Okay? And I've been holding on to that for 12 years. And I just put it, and I threw it out at you. And I'm sorry. Because you come to this podcast to laugh. And maybe you come and you listen to it and you are vaping right now. And put it in the bin. That's fucking gross, dude. You're better than that. You don't, like, no one thinks that's cute. Okay? Some of you, oh, I can't say that word. Some of you are going to get, oh. I'm going to cry. I hate that they made that a demonetizable word. Why would they do that? It's part of my vocabulary. I say that word. I'm Australian. It's cultural to me. It's not a slur. I've never once thought of that word and thought that's a type of person. Sometimes I do, and I think that's my friend. Now I got to go and I got to edit it out. Some of you people are going to have teeth like those babies that were never told to stop sucking their thumbs. You ever see those people with their top and bottom teeth projected outwards? Like it's the Grand Canyon on the inside there. That's what some of you are going to look like because you keep sucking on your vapes. Some of you friends. Is this what you guys want from Spearhead Sundays? Is this what you guys want from the show? I hope it is because it's what the show is. Look, I've had a very tough week. Okay, and I'm not going to go into it. We're saving it for the live podcast. Okay, but even worse than everything else is I can't believe it. All right, as someone who wants to move to New York, I want to live in New York City, baby. I can't believe that there was just a communist revolution that happened there, and they've just killed all of the rich people by electing a communist and, even worse, a Muslim mayor. And even worse, Indian. Could it get even worse than that? I don't know what these people are freaking out about. This guy was like, I think that food should cost less. And people are like, he's going to kill us all. You know? I knew that this guy was going to win the nomination when, remember that, I don't know if you saw it, they had this big debate with all of the candidates, right? And here's the thing. If you're upset about a socialist winning the nomination, ask yourself why the fuck the second most likely candidate to win that the establishment wanted to win was a guy that's like just a sex pest. You know? Didn't Cuomo like molest a bunch of employees and then admit to it? And then he was like, hello, I would like to be the mayor again. No, you don't get to be the mayor again. If you're worried, if you're wondering why radical extremists keep winning elections, it's because they're running against rapists. You know, like it's not the person that I want to vote for. But then, you look at the presidential election and you're thinking, well, maybe it's a winning strategy. I don't know. I'm not an expert in American politics, but what I do know is that I think this is what won him the election. Bear in mind, this is for mayor, right? He wants to be the mayor, and he hasn't won the election. He won the nomination, so he could win. He probably will become the mayor, right? But he's up with all of the other likely candidates, and they're on a debate stage. And one of the questions for a mayor of a city is, what would your first foreign visit be? I'm sorry. Why is a mayor of a city doing foreign visits to countries, other countries? He's a fucking local politician. Sure, New York City, very, very big city, but it is still a city, and he is a mayor. Why the fuck do you want your mayor making visits to even another state? Unless it was to do some deal with the governor, right? And every single likely candidate that was like a contender, right? The people that were like wild cards had varying answers, but every likely contender said Israel, right? I'm going to go to Israel. I'm going to go to Israel. I'm going to go to Israel. Why? What the fuck does that have to do with, do we have enough garbage bins to put the rubbish in? Right? And then they ask him, Mamdani, and he goes, I would stay in New York. And I'm like, oh, he's going to win. Because if I live in New York, I don't give a fuck what's going on in Indonesia. All right? Sure, let the president go to Indonesia to do foreign policy, or to Japan or Israel or whatever. That's fine. Why the fuck is my mayor going to Israel? Does every mayor of every fucking town do that? Could you imagine if the local mayor of Frankston was like, all right, thanks so much for voting me in. I'm getting on a plane to Israel to make a... Like, what the fuck? I'm sorry. I want to make sure that homeless people aren't on the streets dying in the cold in winter in Frankston. Why is the mayor going to Israel? It's just like, why would that happen? What purpose does that serve the person that's voting you in as a local representative? If you're like a higher up politician in charge of a state, maybe. Even then, a state, probably not. Like fucking, they have foreign ministers for policy and for visits and diplomats that are explicitly to do that. Why would the mayor or the leader of a state do that? President, different. Sure, absolutely. Vice president, go for it. Other than that, why would my local representative go to a foreign country that doesn't give a fuck about my, like, I don't think Bibi Netanyahu cares about Frankston. You know what I mean? And as we know, Frankston is a city that's very comparable to New York. Or at least it was until New York was taken over by terrorists, communist terrorists. But then he goes, yeah, I'm not going to go anywhere. I'm going to stay in New York. And they go, oh, so you think that Israel should be nuked by Hamas? And he's like, do you think so? Do you think that Israel has a right to exist? I'm sorry, what does this have to do with the local government policies of my area? What does this have to do with the rat problem in New York? What does this have to do with affordable living in the biggest city in the world? What the fuck does that have to do with anything? That's not his job. And people counter it. They go, yeah, but New York has like the one of the biggest populations of Jews outside of Israel. And it's like, okay, they also have the biggest population of Chinese people, or the second biggest. They also have one of the biggest Indians. In Australia, we have one of the biggest populations of Chinese people as well. Our politicians are going, should China have a right to exist? Like the mayor of Melbourne isn't making trips to China. Probably shouldn't be. We had one of those, and there was a bit of corruption going on. Anyone remember John Soe? The Chinese mayor of Melbourne, he had a lot of friends that maybe he shouldn't have. But as soon as he said, yeah, I'm going to stay in New York, I was like, oh, he's going to win, because everybody else like secretly signaled that they're in it for like powerful, rich people. The minute you start visiting a country that aggressively lobbies politicians and gives them fucking millions of dollars, I think people are pretty wise to, that you're not for me. You're for like powerful, elite million and billionaires. Like, you do the bidding of people who will never have to worry about the economic fallout of just about anything because they're insulated from the environment that they live in. So I'm not surprised that he won. And yeah, that brings us to like the all this stuff in Glastonbury, right? With Kneecap and what the BBC decided to broadcast. I would have loved to be in the control room of the BBC live stream. And then also the meeting that everyone had afterwards, because it's so funny, right? Kneecap is an Irish rap group, rap production group, three guys, and they've been very pro-Palestine, obviously, because they're Irish and they understand colonialism and all this kind of stuff, and it's a very, very like common opinion held in Ireland, right? And they're also very anti-British, right? Because they're Irish. It makes sense. And they've made some very controversial statements, and they've said things like "up Hamas" or was it "up Hezbollah"? I can't remember. Up some kind of terrorist organization, right? At a music thing, and they're being investigated for this by the UK government and all this kind of stuff. They've had visas denied, and one member is looking at criminal charges for I believe he was holding a flag of a terrorist organization, and they've had lots of scrutiny for their very, very vocally pro-Palestine stances, right? And they were performing at Glastonbury, and the BBC was live streaming Glastonbury, right? And the BBC thought, well, Kneecap are probably going to do some very controversial pro-Palestine thing, so we're not going to stream them, and we're going to stream a much lesser known, much less controversial rap group called Vylan, right? Just to be safe. So while Kneecap is performing, BBC cuts away from Kneecap and starts recording this much lesser known, perfectly harmless, hippie-looking guy called Vylan. And he gets on stage and says, free Palestine, which at this point isn't a very controversial statement, depending on how many Jewish friends you have, right? And he comes out and he goes, all right, you've all heard free Palestine, but have you heard this one? And goes, death to the IDF. And then hundreds of, it looked like at least could be tens of thousands of people are just chanting death to the IDF, waving their Palestine flags and all this kind of stuff. I would have loved to have been in the control room of the BBC going, what the fuck? What do we do? Do we air it? Do we cut away? What are we doing? Do we go back to Kneecap? Should we go back to Kneecap? No, we can't do Kneecap. We didn't set cameras up to them. We thought this wasn't going to happen. They must have been freaking the fuck out, dude. Like, that is so much worse than anything that Kneecap have ever said. Chanting death to the IDF. They must have been freaking the fuck out in the control. And BBC have come out and said, yeah, in hindsight, we should have cut away from this. This is a disaster. Everyone's got scrutiny on Glastonbury. This Vylan guy has had his visa denied to the stage, which is interesting that you can get your visa denied to a country for saying something that's not really illegal in another country about a different country. That's interesting. But as an aspiring immigrant to the United States, I agree 100% with all policies of Israel and the United States. So I agree with it. Lock him up. But yeah, I don't know. It's like, and now everyone's like, oh my God, can you believe what he said and what all these people were chanting? And it's like, I don't know. I'm personally, I don't I'm at a point where I don't care at all what people say. I can see what governments are doing. And it doesn't even come close to, so, oh, this is a bad thing to say. It's like, man, I just, I can see what they're doing. I don't care what some fucking punk protest band singer says about a foreign military. I can see video footage of what that foreign military does to prisoners in their prisons. And then I can see people protest to let them keep doing it. I don't care what people say. I can see what people do. And it doesn't compare. I think like it's a really interesting period that we're in where it just seems like that this, I don't think this has happened since Vietnam, where the powers that be and every single person, every other person are so diametrically opposed to this one war that we're paying for, like we're funding it, And that's why when people go, oh yeah, what about Hamas? Hamas are bad, and it's like, yeah, I think they're bad. I think they do bad things, but I can't do anything about them, right? I'm not there, and I don't fund them, right? You know what I do fund? I fund the other guys that are dropping bombs on kids, and every time I pay tax, a couple dollars fall on children in refugee camps. I can do something about that, and I don't want to pay for that. If they want to do that, go for it. That's what I think, all right? If these two groups want to fight each other, go for it. But let them do it on even terms. I don't want to pay for it. I don't want to fund one side. I'm not funding Hamas, so I can't really do it. I'm not going to go over there and fucking take them out. But I certainly don't want to give them money. So I'm not. Well, unless you read a few historical documents about Israel maybe giving a lot of money to Hamas. But where did that money come from? From me! I don't want to pay for it. If they won't put their fucking toys down and stop hitting each other with it, I'm going to go, all right, I'm taking the toys away. If you guys want to fight, you got to do it with fists. That's what I think about it. I don't know what the solution is. I think it's a lot more complex than people fucking believe, but you can just stop doing apartheid. It's a thing that has been stopped before. And if they don't want to stop doing it, fine. If they don't want to stop fighting, fine. But I don't want to pay for it. I think that's fair. So I want the Australian government to stop manufacturing weapons that fall on the heads of children, because I don't agree with how those weapons are being used. And I think that's a pretty fucking reasonable opinion to have, especially when the average person my age cannot afford to buy a home. We got bigger problems. I don't care what the fuck is happening over there. I want it to stop. And if they're not going to stop, if that's out of my control, I certainly want to stop paying one side to continue it eternally until everyone else is dead, because that seems to be the goal. And yeah, it's like all these people are like, oh, can you believe what was said? It's like, I don't care what was said. I care about what's being done. And they're not even remotely close. And it also is no wonder that people are out there chanting shit like that, and it seems to be universally agreed upon amongst everyone under 40. There aren't that many people that disagree with, this is bad and we need to stop funding it. So it doesn't surprise me at all that when, most of the population is being completely fucking ignored, and worse than being ignored, they're being called anti-Semitic and Nazis for opposing all of this death and violence, right? It doesn't surprise me that young people are just gathering in giant groups and saying, inflammatory shit, because they're not being listened to. And what do people who are not being listened to have to turn to? Escalating acts of speech. And then that's how it always fucking happens. people who aren't heard will make you listen. You know? So when the most of the world starts saying, hey, all right, you guys can, if you guys are going to keep fucking killing each other, can one side at least let food in so that women and children and non-combatants aren't starving to death? Can we start with that? And then one side goes, oh, and drags it so that a few extra 10,000 people starve to death, and then goes, all right, fine, we'll let some food in, but anyone who comes too close, we will shoot them. Also, we're going to put opiates in the food so they get addicted to drugs and then die. It's like, all right, well, if they want to do that, okay, but I don't want to pay for it. And if we cut off our money, I don't think they're going to be able to afford to do that anymore. And maybe the world will get better. And they'll have to figure out a way to live in peace. I think that's the thing, is like, they don't, as long as one side is getting infinity dollars from every taxpayer on the earth, it seems, they will never have to live in peace. They will never have to compromise because they're simply too powerful and they don't need to. Right? Why would they have to? They have all the cards. So the only way to make two people work together that hate each other is they got to come to the table. And if one person if one person owns the fucking table and won't let the other person come near even a chair, you got to be like, all right, well, that's not fair. So yeah, I don't know. I hate talking about this stuff because it'll never end. But what can end is me paying for it. So that's what I care about. I don't want to pay for it. I think it's bad. Anyway, in some lighter news, Danish women to face conscription by lottery. Like, this is a great win for equality, guys. Danish women now face being called up to 11 months of military service when they turn 18, after a change in the law came into effect. Under new rules passed by Denmark's parliament, women are to join teenage males in a lottery system that could require them to undertake a period of conscription. The change was brought in as NATO countries boost defense spending amid heightened security concerns in Europe. Up to now, women were allowed to participate in military service when they turned 18, but on a voluntary basis. That's interesting. I mean, I guess I guess what they're doing is you just need lots of drone pilots now. Hey, like, that's what military is, especially in Europe where this stuff's happening or may happen or may, God forbid, escalate. You just need lots of drone pilots, and drone pilots, they don't need to be physically fit at all. They just need to be young and know how to use a controller. And as we know, women love to game now. There are lots of lady gamers out there. So the military is just going to be, here's what the modern military is. It's going to be men on the front lines getting obliterated by Chinese-made drones operated by women. That's the future of warfare, is going to be young, fit, and able men running onto the front lines to get blown up by some 19-year-old gamer girl wearing those cat headphones, those cat ear headphones. She might even be live streaming on Twitter. That's what this is. Did you see that they made a bee-sized drone? We're fucked. Why are we even thinking about starting wars with each other? They made a drone the size of an insect. It's going to be able to fly into your ear and blow up. And the last thing that you're going to hear is it's going to have a little speaker in it, and the last thing that you're going to hear is on the other end the gamer girl's live stream while she streams it to X going, meow, and then your brain blows up. That's what war is going to be now. War is either you showing up to a refugee camp because you heard there's going to be food and the occupying force shooting you for it, and then giving the survivors food laced with opioids, or where two countries have a comparable military, it's going to be gamer girls blowing up starving men in trenches that are surrendering to the robot that will show no mercy because war is impersonal now. About 4,700 Danish men and women undertook a short period of military service in 2024, about 24% of them being female volunteers. Wow, they must be really getting ready if the women are volunteering in those numbers. They must be very worried about Russia. The new rules on conscription are expected to see the overall number doing military service annually rise to 6,500 by 2023. Denmark is following the example of neighbouring Sweden and Norway, which both brought in conscription for women in recent years. I mean, yeah, if war is just drones, that makes it accessible to all genders. That's literally what warfare is. It's going to be like chicks with Xbox controllers blowing up men driving trucks full of food to people on the front line who, unbeknownst to them, have already had their brains exploded by drones the size of bees. Could not thank the Lord I live in a country girt by sea, because when China invades, we can just give up because there'll be no fighting it. All right, a country that's landlocked with a bunch of other different countries where there's actually going to be some fighting. Man, I couldn't imagine just walking to where my commanding officer, who probably put a prompt into ChatGPT and said, "What should I do with my soldiers today?" I couldn't imagine going there and just hearing the sound of, and then you just fucking die. But at least women are having the chance to to do something important. In some positive news, the Stop Killing Games movement is looking like it's going to be successful. I haven't spoken about this yet, but basically, a guy who looks like Rick from Rick and Morty without the alcoholism and the scientific brain, which really is the guy that you want to launch any sort of movement to do with video games. Is a dude with hair so fucking crazy you can't tell if he's he looks like a really bald guy standing in front of Weird Al Yankovic, so you can see Weird Al's hair behind him, and then there's a very bald guy, but then you get a bit closer and you realize that there's actually one person that's somehow really bald but also has heaps of hair. That's the guy that launched this. Who is this? What's the guy's name? I can't remember. Was it Accursed Farms? Is that his name? I can't remember. Basically, with video games becoming increasingly digital, and they're digital-only products, essentially. Like, even when you buy a video game from, EB Games, even if you get a cartridge, sometimes you're still downloading it from the internet. You get a box. I remember when video games used to come with maps and game manuals and tips and, fold-out posters, and it was like a cool physical thing. And you got a disc, sometimes 6 discs. There was you were buying something. But now you're downloading a license to temporarily play a game until the corporation deems it unprofitable, and then they shut it down and you can never play it again. And that sucks, dude. I'll tell you a story. I remember best game I ever played was Warhammer Online. It's like Warhammer Age of Reckoning. It was such a fun game. It was like again one of the next World of Warcraft killers, when they were coming out every 5 years. But it was one of the most well-made games with a beautiful environment. The graphics were cool. The world building was amazing. The PvP was so fun. I never enjoyed PvP in MMOs ever until I played War. And I love that game so much. And the character creation and the cities and the music and the environments and the quests and everything like that was so fun to play. And I played that game so much, and eventually the player base dwindled and they shut it down. And you couldn't play it anymore. And then in response to this, the player base set up servers of their own, private servers, right? And the devs who lovingly made this game, the developers of this game that got laid off or fired or whatever, and were moved off the game. This game that they spent years and years and years building and then maintaining and running and improving just got shut down out of nowhere, right? So they had nothing to show their children that didn't exist yet or were too young to understand. Ancestors or family members or new friends or spouses or anyone they wanted to show, they could not show what they poured their heart and soul into. So then these private servers showed up and people started playing the game that they wanted to play, that the company that started Warhammer Online was making no money from at all and had intentionally shut down. These private servers were costing the game nothing. And then they ended up taking all these private servers down, suing people, threatening legal action, all this kind of stuff. And I remember at the time thinking, man, these people just want to play this game that they bought, that they paid for. They paid a monthly license to access. And you're suing these people to protect something that you have decided to make no money from, that these private servers aren't even making any money from. They just want to play their game that they love, that they bought and paid for. And that's when this like movement first personally hit me. But recently a game I loved got completely shut down. I really liked playing what was it called? It was like that Warner Brothers game with all the fighting characters. Had like Batman and Superman and Adventure Time characters in it as well. Rumbleverse or something like that. It was like a Smash Bros type thing. They just shut that game down, and I loved playing that game. I had a lot of fun with it. I'd never really enjoyed fighting games before. I know it wasn't the most competitive thing. People had a lot of problems with it, but I liked it. And if a game is going to shut down the servers, I understand that, because servers cost game companies money, and if they can't afford to keep the servers running, I understand that, right? But what I don't understand is, like, with Warhammer Online, surely I've downloaded all the files and the environments and stuff. Surely, like, I could walk around and do the quests, like, by myself, right? Surely there could be some version of that game that could exist entirely run on my computer, because I paid for the game, I downloaded all the files, and when I open it up, it runs, but you just switched it off, right? And same with this fucking fighting game that I enjoyed. Sure, okay, I understand. I'm not going to be able to play online co-op with people. I get that. That's fine. I'm not expecting companies to pay money to run servers for a game that they operate on a loss. But I paid for that game. I bought it. I bought some skins. I bought the Founders Pack. I loved it that much. And it just it's gone. I can't open it. It doesn't work anymore. And it's like, I paid for that, dude, with my money. You know, World of Warcraft, I love that game so much. I've been playing it since 2006 when it came out. I wouldn't know what to do if they shut it down. I've got so many memories locked into, like, Westfall and Barrens and Stormwind City and Orgrimmar, and so many places where, like, if probably there will come a time where at some point World of Warcraft will shut down. You know, it's not all things end, but I wouldn't know what to do if I couldn't, like, be like, man, I would love to just wander around Stormwind City, even if there's no other players or whatever. I would love to do some quests that don't require other players, or I would love to just wander around Elwyn Forest and listen to the music, you know? Like, it would be heartbreaking if that game shut down and it was just taken from me, and anyone who tried to set up a private server would get sued into oblivion. And that's what the current state of the games industry is that these video game companies, they create these games and they make a bunch of money and then they stop being profitable. And even if they are very profitable, they lay off they often lay off entire teams that made games profitable. They don't reward them for their efforts. And then the second that a game stops being profitable, or the second they can use a game as a tax write-off, they just take it down and you can't play it anymore because you didn't buy the game. You bought a license to play the game temporarily. And this Stop Killing Games movement is the answer to this, right? This guy launched a petition in Europe. And if in Europe, if you get enough signatures for any issue and it's over 1 million signatures you need, they will have a look at it in Parliament and see if they can do anything about it, right? And it's not a perfect idea because, like other people like Pirate Software have mentioned, it's not particularly realistic for something like an MMO to be completely offline because often it's using technology that has been licensed and isn't owned by Blizzard or whoever made the game, right? But that's why issues like this need to be brought into Parliament so that they can go, this is an issue, let's figure it out. We'll talk to experts and work out some legislation to make it, workable in real life. Whereas this Pirate Software guy is like, oh, this is fucking stupid. It hasn't addressed this particular very specific scenario, so the entire movement needs to be thrown out in the bin and we shouldn't even try. But thankfully, he did raise that stupid opinion because that very bitter response to this hopeful, positive idea of pro-consumer movement went very viral, and people are now signing the petition in spite of him, which I find very funny, right? And that's why I'm talking about it on here, because it's something I care very deeply about. The ability to own things is very important, even if they're a digital product. Like, I did my comedy special. This is a great example of this. Death Threats Don't Scare Me. I did it on my website as a $5 digital download, no DRM. You buy it, you get the file, you can do whatever you want with it. You just can't put it on torrent sites. You can't put it on video sharing sites. But if you want to watch it on a laptop and then transfer the file to a phone and then fucking airdrop that to your TV and watch it with friends, like, you bought the file. As long as you don't pirate it and re-upload it, I don't care. It's yours, right? And I was a little bit worried about that. I was worried, oh fuck, maybe someone's just gonna, maybe I won't make any money out of this. But I made a bunch of money out of it, and people really appreciated it. And people sent me photos of them like watching it with friends, and I wasn't like, oh, 10 people should have paid me $5. You're doing pirate. I was like, oh, this is great. He bought a thing and he's using his product. That's awesome. That's why I made it, so that people can enjoy it, right? But that's not what these games companies want to do. They want to make every single video game an online, connected, permanently thing that they can turn off at any moment. And these companies, they do this with movies, right? They'll make a whole film and then just write it off as a tax expense, never release it. Or a movie will disappear from a streaming service, and then there's no way for you to legally buy it or legally stream it, but the company will, in some cases, sue you for illegally downloading it, right? You see this with region locking. Like, there are so many movies or games or things that I cannot purchase legally or watch legally from Australia. My only option is to pirate it, but that comes with potential legal consequences, right? So that's what Stop Killing Games, the petition, is supposed to solve. And I'm very glad they've gotten their 1 million subscribers, their 1 million signatures, which is really good. But they're still asking for more signatures because a lot of them could be fake. And they need to be signatures from the EU. So I haven't signed this because I'm not from there. My signature won't count. But if you're from the EU, you should go and sign this petition, because what we've seen, like the mandate that they made in the EU with charging cables, they said USB-C is the standard. Stop making new cables unless you can prove that you need a different one. And all of a sudden, way less cables got made. I don't need any more fucking cables. I've got my lightning cable for my old phone, and I've got a USB-C. It works for everything else. That directly benefited my life as a consumer. That's awesome, right? That's what happens because the EU is such a big market. If they make it something illegal or mandate something in the EU, often it affects America, Australia, Asia, all the other countries, because it's too expensive to do one thing in the EU and another thing over here, right? So And even just recently, a game called Anthem just shut down. And it wasn't a particularly successful game, but people did spend their money on it, and people bought DLC, and people paid the purchase price of the game, and they just shut down the servers, and you can't play it ever again. There's a game, a much smaller game that genuinely, best game I ever played. It's called Monday Night Combat. It was a $15 game. I was playing it in like 2011 or 12. I got so cracked at that game. I got so good. Me and my friends would play it every single day after school, and it eventually died. And it was really, really, really sad. They shut down the Australian servers. We played on the American servers. Eventually those shut down. Now there are no servers. But the other day, just a couple months ago, I thought, man, I love that game so much. And it was a multiplayer game, so you can't play it by yourself. But I thought, man, I love that game so much. I just want to walk around in the game, right? And I downloaded it, and I walked around in the game. And it was a game that I bought. It was a game that no one plays anymore. It's a dead game. There are no servers left. But I was able to spin it up and have a little play around. And I was flooded with all of this nostalgia and all these good memories that I had of playing this game when I was like 16, 17. And I got to hear the music, and I got to shoot the guns and jump around as the characters and remember all of their abilities. And there was no one else in the game. It's dead. It was an arena shooter. I'm wandering around an arena that no one else is in. But man, I had fun. I loved it. And if that game got just fucking taken down like all these other live service games, I would never be able to do that ever again. And that is wrong, because I bought that game. I paid for it. It's mine. It shouldn't be able to be taken away from me. This whole idea that all these companies have of like deleting the idea of a product or making things, making it illegal to own anything, essentially, is what they're trying to do. They're saying, no, that's like when they deleted Warhammer Online and people tried to spin up their own private servers. You know, EA, I think it was who made it. Fact check me on this, on that. I think it was EA. They said, no, you can't play the thing you paid for. That's ours. We're taking the ball and going home. It's not profitable for us to run the service, which is totally fair, but you can't take on that expense yourself. So this which will hopefully turn into legislation, the Stop Killing Games movement, is to force game companies to figure out a solution to this that makes sense for everybody. No one's expecting live service games that aren't profitable anymore to maintain multiplayer servers. But if we buy a game, we should be able to run private servers of it because we've bought the game. And if someone wants to take on the expense of running a private server, that's how it should be done. I mean, that's how games used to be. I remember playing Counter-Strike 1.6. Someone would pay like a $15 a month fee to run their own private server. They'd have all their own rules. And you would join their server. There were no public servers. Private servers were how it worked. So I think this is a really, really, really important thing where if you buy something, you should be able to access it, play it, watch it whenever you want. I don't like this idea of licensing video games, because if I'm going to pay fucking $100 video games cost now, that's what they want them to cost, I should be able to play it whenever I want, at any time, even if the company goes bankrupt, even if the game is dead. I should be able to open it up and walk around the environment and be flooded with nostalgia like I was with Monday Night Combat. That just makes sense. So I really, really, really support the Stop Killing Games movement. Go and sign the petition if you can. I'll leave it in the description. If you are in the EU, please, please, please do this, because it will positively affect video game players forever. So yeah, go sign it. What else did I want to talk about here? Little update about what I talked about last episode. I wanted to say thank you very much to everyone who left such nice comments about, you know, what I talked about, which was this feeling of being pulled in so many different directions and therefore doing nothing properly. I really tried to take my own feelings on board and do something about it in the week following that episode. And I just made a promise to myself, I'm not even going to think about posting on Instagram. I'm not even going to think about posting on TikTok. I'm just going to make YouTube videos that are good for YouTube. And I'm not going to think about clips. I'm not going to think about reels. I'm not going to think about TikToks, stand-up clips, podcast clips, sketches, photos, posts, text posts, tweets, writing, all of the other bullshit that I could be doing that would work if I did it, because I can do it all. I just don't have the time to, because I am one man. And I thought, I'm just going to focus on YouTube. Lo and behold, I've had the best month on YouTube that I've had for 6 months. And it's all because of the 1 week of work I did where I just focused on YouTube. The YouTube channel is doing heaps of views. I'm getting so many amazing comments. I'm getting a bunch of people saying shit like, oh man, I've never heard of this guy before. You're so funny. I've just subscribed. Love this video. This is such a fresh take, all this kind of stuff. And I'm like, oh my God, all I got to do is that week again. And then I got to do that again. And I was so much less stressed. I wasn't worried about I wasn't worried about letting my responsibilities slip. I wasn't worried about not doing my job properly. Like I'm always worried about, I'm not doing this properly. I'm not doing that properly. And it's not because I focused on YouTube, because I'm always focused on YouTube. I'm just also focused on this and that and Instagram and stand-up clips and selling tickets and all this kind of bullshit. It's because I made the conscious decision to not do this. I'm going to not do that. I'm not going to worry about stand-up clips. I'm not going to worry about Instagram Reels. I'm not going to worry about Real Talk. I'm not going to worry about short sketches. I'm not going to worry about posting stories. I'm not going to worry about this, that. I'm just going to focus on YouTube and my podcast. And I'm just going to do those 2 things because I am only capable of doing 3 things. One of them has to be stand-up because that's the main thing. And then I can do 2 other things. And I can either quit the podcast and start doing clips, or quit the podcast and start doing Real Talk, or do sketches or whatever, or I can do the podcast and YouTube. And that's all I'm going to do. So, and lo and behold, it just fucking worked. I was so much less stressed. I wasn't worried about not doing my job properly. I wasn't worried about letting you down. I wasn't worried about, selling tickets or this or that. And I wasn't worried about like, this could work if I just found out a way to do it properly. I just thought, I'm not doing anything else other than YouTube and my podcast. And when a show comes up, I will do the show. And I have had the most lovely week where I've actually, other than the test, but other than that, I've had the most lovely week where I've just gotten out some of I think, the funnier YouTube videos I've done all year since about December, January, when I took a big run at just doing YouTube. And my pattern has always been, I do this for 3 weeks. It starts going really well. I make a bunch of money and I go, now YouTube's working. Now I can focus on this. And lo and behold, I focus on this. That starts to work. YouTube falls apart. And then I'm like, okay, well, this is working. Now I can go over and look at this. And that starts to work. The thing I switch focus to starts to fall apart. YouTube gets even worse. And then I go, fuck, YouTube's falling apart. I need to look at YouTube. The other 2 things fall apart and the cycle continues. I'm not doing that shit anymore. Because I want to get to the States. I want to get to New York. I want to live in a communist shithole, New York. That's where I want to live. I want to live in the communist revolution that is known as New York for all people. And I want to go there and have my wealth redistributed. No, I'm being silly. I want to be a comedian. And as much as I want to be a comedian and be posting stand-up clips all the time, I don't want to be doing theaters in Australia. That would be cool. but that's just more money in my pocket. I don't do this for money. I want to get really, 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 really fucking good at stand-up. And to do that, I need to be getting on stage 3-4 times a week. Sorry, 3-4 times a night every week. And you can't do that here because that's impossible. We don't have the clubs. We got 2 clubs in Melbourne. A lot of people are like, oh, what about the Rubber Chicken? The Rubber Chicken shut down. We used to have more clubs, but every time one opens, in about 5 years, they shut down because we don't have the population to support comedy in Australia. We are doing a very, very, very good impression of a stand-up comedy industry, but it is an impression. I need to be where it is happening for real. The only way for me to get there is to make a regular monthly income online that I can make from Timbuktu. I could be posting these videos from space. You'd have no idea, right? So, and what I need for that is Patreon, YouTube ad revenue, and some sponsorships. And that's what's going to get me to the States, because that's money and income that I can take with me, because I can move and the videos can stay exactly the same quality, if not better, as long as I just focus on them. And all of this other stuff that I'm stressed about, that I'm not doing, stand-up comedy clips, which are really important, and if I did do them, they would work, and you know, sketches that if I did do them, they would work, and real talks, if I did do them, they would work. That's the biggest problem I have, is that I can do so many things. I'm a very talented person, and I'm very passionate about everything that I do and all the stuff that I make, and I can do it all, but I cannot do it all at once. And that's what I got to learn. And that's what I find that's what I find hard to accept is because I see immense potential in so many different things, and that I can do them. Like if I just dropped this podcast and YouTube and I just did stand-up clips, it would work. It probably would work. You know, I've got 3 years of comedy in my hard drive, my NAS there, and if I just knuckle down and just posted that, it probably would work. I would blow up on TikTok, on Instagram, this and that, and I would probably be doing theaters in Australia, and that would be cool. But I don't want to be doing that. I want to be over there making fuck all money doing clubs, right? And I just got to pick one thing and do that for like 18 months. And it's got to be YouTube, because YouTube is the only thing that pays money. You know, if I become super duper famous on TikTok and Instagram, that's really cool and that'd be great. But that would lock me in to my only income source being stand-up. And then I would just have to be touring nonstop Australia. And I don't, God bless you, Bundaberg. I don't want to be doing 500 seat theaters in Bundaberg. That would be cool to do once. I don't want to just have to do that on a loop forever. You know, I've been touring Australia for ages. I love it. I'm so grateful. Every time I get on stage, I'm reminded that this is my calling in life and the only thing that I want to be doing with my life. But to do that, I gotta pull back a little bit and focus on YouTube. It's the long play, man. I gotta be where I need to be. I think the most important decision you make in your life is where you live. And I know where I want to live. I just need to make it possible. And YouTube is the way. And yeah, dude, it's like as soon as I dropped everything else, I was like, oh man, it's working. Right? I pulling up my all I did was I just decided I'm not going to do anything else. And without even really trying, since I decided to do that, what have I done? I've done 1, 2, 3, 4, and you haven't seen it yet, 5 videos since 7 days ago. 1, 2, 3, 4 videos in 1 week. And it was so easy. Like I tried, and I tried very hard to make the videos work, right? Obviously, and make them funny, and I'm writing a lot for them. I think I'm putting in more effort into these videos than most other YouTube creators are in terms of the writing. I think people do better editing and stuff like that, but I don't really want to be a good editor. I want to be funny with my words. And it was so much easier to just focus on one thing. And I didn't feel all of this guilt that I was not doing this and not doing that, or letting this slip while focusing on this, and, oh, fuck, but if I could just find a way to do this, it would work. And I was just like, man, I just need to do one thing for a year, and it'll work, and I'll get all of this other stuff too. Because the other thing is, man, if YouTube works, it is a money printer. Like, I've never done this for more than 2 months, but there's been like months where I've made like 10 grand in a month and gone, oh, that's amazing. That's so much money. Now I don't have to think about YouTube, and I can focus on what I really want to do, which is stand up. And then that 10 grand got spread across a few months, and it was like an allowance that I gave myself. It was like I made a bunch of money, and then I paid to not make any money for a few months so I could do what I really love, which is stand up. But what I need to do is I need to go, all right, if I really, really want stand up, I need to pull back on it and keep those 10 grand months going and turn them into 20, 30 grand months, which is possible. But it takes a long time. It takes, it's 6 months to 8 months to spin up to that, maybe more. And that's why, I'm doing this, because I want this podcast to be really big. I want the Patreon podcast to be amazing, so we can grow the support, and so that you guys who believe in me can actually fucking see me do what I say I want to do, which is to get over there. Because it's very possible, and I look at my YouTube channel, I go, fuck, man, I remember those 10 grand months. And then I look at look at my analytics, and it's like the last 6 months has been like $400 months. YouTube is like, you either make a fuckload of money or zero, for me at least. And it's like, man, I need to figure out a way to make that consistent. And the only way to do that is to drop everything else. And what's so funny about this is that I know deep down all this other stuff that I want to do, stand-up clips, sketches, real talks, all of that, I actually can do all of that and YouTube if I have some help. And the way to get help is to pay for it, and the way to get enough money to pay for it is to do YouTube. My problem has always been I start making money on YouTube, and I go, good, that's done. I can focus on this. And then it all falls apart, and I build this up, and I go back here. And what I need to do is just one thing for a year. And if I can replicate this week that I've had and just get some momentum going and just focus on this, all of the other stuff will come back in time. But that can wait till after I move. And I really think that's the go. Because I would love for this podcast to be like, I was just thinking the other day, man, imagine if this podcast was getting 50,000 views on YouTube and Spotify. Like, I could do just this and stand up. How fun would that be? And then occasionally do a video. Just those high effort stunt videos, right? How cool would that be? How do I make that happen? Well, I got to do YouTube and keep plugging the podcast, and then through the podcast, plug in the Patreon. And it's like it's a big funnel. And then people come to shows, If the YouTube channel is big enough, I don't even have to talk about my shows. I just go, I'm touring, and they sell out. But if I'm not posting, people don't know about the shows, they don't come. So it's like everything comes from the Lewis Spears YouTube. That's what gets me to where I want to go. And it is true that if I did this well, it would work. That's true, and that's why I find it so hard to not do it, because I see the potential in everything, and I see what could work, and it would work. Like, I'm really fucking good at this, but I need to realize that no matter how good I am at making this stuff work, I am one person. And one person needs to do one thing and a half, YouTube, podcast, touring. That's what I can do by myself. And that's fucking heaps. Everything else, that's the thing, man. I spent so much money being sick. I got no savings, I'm still paying off debt. And if I really want to get to where I'm going, I can't afford to not do YouTube. And I love YouTube. I really, really, really like it. I've had so much fun this week. making myself laugh, making people laugh, talk about what interests me and really pushing myself to write those jokes. And what's so ironic about this as well is that because I've been writing those like minute intros at the start and then just freestyling for the rest of it, I've just got editor man from the UK, Ned, to cut those out into vertical clips and posting those. This is the best week I've had on TikTok for months. And I got that by being like, I'm not going to do TikTok. I'm not going to make a single TikTok. And I haven't. I've just cut a clip from a YouTube video in 5 minutes, put it up there, and it's done like, I think the Will Smith one did like 250,000 views or something. So the way to get where I'm going is and always has been through YouTube. And so I'm just going to focus on that. And I'm actually very grateful to you. All the comments that I read were people going, man, I get it. I understand, and we're excited for the big swing to come back, you know? Because it has always been my pattern. Like I do YouTube really well, and then I get the ball rolling. Like if you look at my go back to like October, November, December, January, you can see me build up. All the ray gun stuff happens, and then I put out that banger Bell Gibson video, and then I was like, yes, the YouTube's fucking killing it. Now I can focus on what I really want to do, and then I just let it all the momentum just disappeared. And then it's been like 6 months since I've gotten a video that's done anywhere decent views. And views isn't what it's about. It's about momentum. I want people to continually come back and have a laugh. Really, that's what this is about. And that's why I get pulled away from YouTube, because when YouTube starts working, I feel guilty that all the people on Instagram aren't seeing anything from me. But that's how it is. I'm not a fucking media conglomerate. I am one guy. I don't have employees anymore. I used to do all the other stuff. It cost me 2 full-time salaries. That's what it costs. And I can't afford that. And also, if I have, $70,000 to pay someone's salary or whatever it costs, probably more, I should put that into fucking moving, because it costs less than that to get over to the States. So yeah, I don't want to build a team here. I don't want to be doing arenas in Australia. I don't want to be doing fucking 100-date Australia tours. I want to be over there. And I want to come here once a year to tour. A lot of people are like, oh, but I won't get to see you anymore. No matter what happens, I'll be coming here once a year to do a tour. You know, because of course I want to see my family and check in with them and spend like a month at home during quiet periods in the US, all that kind of stuff. Right? So I would never stop touring here. I love this country too much. But the next step is the States, and YouTube is the pathway to that. You know, every time I post consistently, my audience demographics immediately shift to like 60% US viewers, and then a breakdown of everybody else. So it's like, it just makes sense. That's where I'm going. That's where my humor naturally. That's who my humor naturally attracts. It's like, you know, politically aware and social media conscious, you know, people who are aware of like what's happening on YouTube and trends and shit like that. That's my demo. And most of those people naturally live in the States because there's fucking 350 million people there. We've got like 200 people in Australia. Yeah. Last thing before we get out of here, I wanted to talk also about the Lidwig and Mang0 situation, which I think there's a very big lesson in for all of us. To catch you up to speed before we get out of here, Lidwig is a very big streamer, Lidwig, and there's another guy called Mang0. I think he's in the Smash Brothers community. I don't know anything about this guy, right? But I do know Lidwig, and I do know men. Lidwig hosted this big live stream event, bunch of ladies, bunch of men, everyone streaming on their own devices, doing whatever, right? And there was this guy called Mang0, and he's married, and he got really, really drunk, and he, sexually harassed a few of the women that were on stream. He did really gross things like, humping behind their heads, and he took his shirt off and continued after he was asked to stop, and made like lots of sexual motions towards much younger women who were clearly very uncomfortable. He's a very big guy. He was really drunk, really fucking gross. What he did is inexcusable, and he needs to learn from that. And he's been dropped by a bunch of orgs and brands and all that kind of stuff. He's getting consequences. This is good, right? This is a good thing. The women are okay. I, to my knowledge, he didn't actually touch anyone, but it was still sexual harassment, right? At what is a work event, bunch of streamers streaming together. That's a work event, and he's sexually harassing not co-workers but peers. We'll say, really gross stuff. That sucks. Ludwig it was his event. He was in charge of it, and he came out with a statement, rightfully condemning Mang0's behavior and saying this is gross. He's not going to be invited to any future events. Then a bunch of clips from that night came to light of Ludwig feeding alcohol to Mang0, who, I don't know too much about this guy, but from what I've read online, apparently is an alcoholic, has tried to quit, struggles with alcoholism, whatever you want to call it, right? And Ludwig is feeding him alcohol, encouraging him to get drunk. He's got a breathalyzer with him, is consistently getting this guy to blow into the breathalyzer and then celebrating every time his blood alcohol level gets higher and higher and higher. At one point, it was like 3 times the legal limit, which is like dangerous, right? And he's pushing this guy to drink, making everyone celebrate, really getting this guy to get drunker, encouraging an alcoholic to binge drink. And a lot of people came out and they've said, you got this guy really drunk, and then he did some really dumb shit, and then you stabbed him in the back. You're the bad guy. I have a bit of a more nuanced take on this, and it is, you need to be careful who you're friends with. This goes for men especially. You really got to be careful who you're friends with, okay? You should not be friends with someone or tolerate the behavior of someone who, at whatever level of sobriety or lack thereof they are, sexually harasses women and acts gross towards women in the way that Mang0 did. That is not a man that you want around. If one of your boys acts like that, you must check them. If they continue to act like that, you must cut them out, because that's a dangerous man to have around, and you do not want that person around you, around women especially, because that is a disaster waiting to happen, and it's not behavior that as men we can tolerate or accept or ignore or just turn a blind eye to. It's fucking gross, and it's not on. That said, you also should not be friends with someone who encourages you to act poorly. You should not be friends with someone who pushes you to do things that you will regret later. You should not be friends with someone who knows that you have struggled with alcoholism and pushes you to drink further. And even if you have not struggled with alcoholism, you should not be friends with someone who turns you getting drunk into entertainment for everybody else, because they're laughing at you. You are the entertainment. You are being embarrassed, right? I'm certainly not going to defend this Mang0 guy, because what he did was really gross to these girls. But what I will say is, anyone who plies somebody else with alcohol for the entertainment of everybody else in the room, they're not your friend. That's not what a friend does. A friend looks after their mates. And yes, of course, it was a streamed event, and what they were doing was entertainment. But I still think it stands. In fact, I think it makes it a little bit worse. If you are, a person with a large online audience and you're encouraging another person with a large online audience to embarrass themselves in front of peers and strangers while it's recorded, it's just a disaster waiting to happen, you know? It's like, in our reality, this guy sexually harassed 2 young women, but in another, he could have fucking thrown up all over himself. In another, he could have ended up in hospital. In another, he could have fallen over and really hurt himself. He could have gotten into a fight with somebody else. He could have gotten arrested. Like, there are so many terrible situations that can arise from using an alcoholic as entertainment and pushing them to become more drunk. Like, if you should not be friends with someone who encourages you to be the worst version of yourself, is what I'm saying. Obviously, it goes without saying. Well, actually, it doesn't go without saying because we don't say it enough. If you've got someone around that treats women like sexual objects without their consent and is really gross towards them, takes their clothes off and you know, puts sexual advances onto much younger, smaller, vulnerable women, you cut that guy out and you tell him why. You don't just ghost. You go, this is why I'm doing this, because that's unacceptable. Of course, that's true. But what's also true is you got to be careful with who you're friends with. And if someone uses the worst elements of you and the things that you struggle with and the dark side of you as entertainment for everybody else, and he pushes you further to become a version of you that you don't like, that's not your friend. That's someone who will laugh as you destroy yourself. And that's what happened. This Mango guy fucking ruined, he's not the victim here, but he ruined his career and irreparably damaged his reputation to entertain someone he thought was his friend, who immediately, after pushing this guy to be a fucking idiot, was like, whoa, this guy's a fucking idiot. Won't have him around anymore. It's like, man, you didn't look out for your friend. You didn't look out for the women at your event. You didn't look out for what was happening on stream for your young, impressionable viewers. You're a shit mate. I don't know. It's like whenever you see someone, you got to be careful of those people that push you to be a version of you that you don't like. This happens with peer pressure. I mean, it's what peer pressure is. You know, they push you to get too drunk, to do drugs that you don't want to do. The people pressure you into sex that you don't want to have. People pressure you into doing shit that could get you hurt. People pressure you into getting into fights with people that you don't even know. Like, all this kind of stuff, you got to be real careful of who you're friends with. You only want to be friends with people who push you to be a better version of you, who pull you out of those situations. You know, if I'm out with a mate and he's getting way too drunk, I'm taking him home. I'm not feeding him more alcohol, and I'm certainly not streaming him embarrassing himself. I don't know. It's just the whole thing makes me feel left me feeling very yucky. This Mango guy is not the victim, but Ludwig was not his friend in that situation. And as always, this is what always happens every single fucking time when men are reckless, when men don't check each other, when men push each other to be worse, women pay the price. Almost every single time when men are left unchecked and when they push each other to be worse instead of push each other to be better, women are the ones who pay the ultimate price of that. And yes, men get hurt and experience consequences as well, but down the line, it always falls on a woman's head. When sports games are on, domestic violence spikes because gambling addicts lose. And it's because men fucking set up the gambling and men build the advertising and men do the gambling and men lose the money and men profit from other men losing that money and therefore incentivize men to become worse versions of themselves, and men lose their money and women pay the price. You can see it, man. It's not always super clear, but when men don't uplift each other and help each other become better and call each other to stop doing certain things, at some point in this giant long chain, it falls on women. Every time. And that's why it's so important who you're friends with, and also to be aware of the type of friend that you are. Like, are you doing that? Are you looking after your mates? Are you making sure that your friends are not doing bad things to themselves or to other people? Are you aware of who you're allowing around your female friends, around your family, around your other mates? Are you aware of your own actions and how they affect your friends and women and children? And like, what type of person are you? That's what I got from all of this, is like, what a fucking gross situation where men didn't look after themselves and each other, and the consequences for that fell on women, as it always does. That's it in a microcosm. This is a big societal chain that takes years and years and years and years and generations even, but it always makes its way to fall on women. But you got to see it in a night. Men pushing men to be worse, men not checking other men who are acting poorly, and guess who got hurt? Was women. So that's why it's important. All right. Well, I'll leave you with this. The podcast has a clips channel on YouTube, and we're trying to get we're trying to get that channel monetized, and you need watch time to that. So I have uploaded a video that is about 11 or 12 hours of the Spearhead Sundays clock on the Lewis Spears podcast clips channel. I'm going to leave a link to that in the description and the top comment. Could you please watch that video for all 12 hours? If we can get even 1,000 people watching that, we're going to hit the monetization, and then the clips channel we can actually post properly, and hopefully it'll get monetized, and that will help grow the podcast. If you would like more Spearhead Sundays, I'm going to be recording a Patreon episode in a couple of days, and that's going to be up on Patreon, as well as there's like hundreds of Patreon episodes. There's a huge backlog. There's a really good one that I did with Mitch as we drove back from the airport after Newcastle that's up now, and you can go and listen to it. Patreon.com/LouSpears if you want to support the show and help me get to the States and help me stay focused on this YouTube thing. I really, really, really think this is the way. I'm doing YouTube, and I'm not doing anything else. It's just you and me and this platform, baby. So thank you so much. I've been Lewis Spears. I will see you. I've got a Frankston show, a Canberra show, and we've got episode 400 of the podcast coming up as well. We're doing that live in Sydney, louispears.com. Then I'm off to the UK and Ireland. I will talk to you soon. I hope you have a shit one. Bye.